Thanks so much for joining me. Well, it looks like June 2026 is now unofficially Edmonton's wettest June on record, with records going back to 1880. Here at Edmonton Blatchford, as of June 22nd, you had 203 millimeters of rain. And we go to the Alberta Rivers website here. The rain gauge at Edmonton Blatchford showing 39.1 millimeters of rain in the last 24 hours. That's good enough to eclipse the old record of 216.5 millimeters that was set back in June of 1914. The only reason I say unofficial is because if you go to the Environment Canada site as of June 27th midday, still showing the data for June 26 is missing there. That's likely due to some kind of a data transmission issue. I would imagine that'll be rectified soon and we'll get the official declaration. But based on real-time observations, we've confirmed that we have eclipsed that old record in Edmonton. And could we actually go toward now the all-time rainiest month, just in general in Edmonton? Well, the record to beat there is 282.7 millimeters set back in July of 1901. This rain event is not over quite yet. We've got another push coming through on Sunday, which could deliver at least another 30 millimeters of rain. And so that'll get us fairly close. And then all it takes after that is just one big downpour from like a thunderstorm that could push us over the top. So stay tuned. We'll see if we approach the all-time record rainiest month in the city of Edmonton. Of course, we've got rainfall warnings across parts of Alberta as a result of the storm system. Notice out here in eastern Alberta, yellow rainfall warning for 40 to 70 millimeters this weekend. You look here in central Alberta, also 40 to 70 millimeters, but it's an orange warning. What gives? Well, it's we've got elevated vulnerabilities in central Alberta due to the recent rain we've been seeing. Soils are saturated, that rainwater runs off and can give us excess, flooding, overland flood concerns out there. So that's why you've got the orange warning in central Alberta. And of course, we've got 200 to 300% of normal precipitation over the past 30 days in central Alberta and other pockets of the prairies as well, down near Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, portions of southeastern and extreme western, southeastern Saskatchewan, extreme western Manitoba, and parts of southern Manitoba near Winnipeg. This heavy rain out here was largely earlier in the month associated with thunderstorm systems, and this storm system is still going. So we're going to see even more precipitation added to this. So very impressively wet June across the Canadian prairies. What that looks like here in our precipitation forecast, we're seeing that rain through central Alberta sort of dissipating, moving off to the northwest. Meanwhile, southern and central Saskatchewan seeing rain and thunderstorms pushing into southern Manitoba for Sunday. Some of that rain wrapping back around the north side of the low into central and southern Alberta for Sunday, giving us a second push of heavy precipitation, some upslope enhancement there along the foothills, and a lot of rain there across southern Alberta persisting into Monday as well, with continued showers and thunderstorms, some of which may be severe across portions of the eastern prairies through Tuesday and even persisting into Wednesday in portions of the eastern prairies there. After that, looks like we may get a couple drier days in central Alberta through the end of June. But then as we get into early July, our upper air pattern is still largely supportive of this sort of unsettled pattern, daily sort of daytime heating, thunderstorms, and rain showers that form during peak heating every day across much of Western Canada with that upper air pattern. One thing to know, though, is that weather models have really been struggling with the evolution of this upper low. And part of that's because upper level low pressure systems, blocking patterns in general, as we're seeing, we've got this Rex block pattern in the atmosphere as well. Models generally do tend to struggle with those types of patterns, but we've also got another factor here. Upstream, our weather balloon launches are significantly lacking at times, where we've got some staffing shortages in the National Weather Service that's, preventing them from launching, balloons twice a day as we used to see. Through portions of the western central states here, we're missing a whole bunch of upper air observations upstream, both in terms of our low level southeasterly winds and our upper level southwesterly winds. This really doesn't help because this data is critical for weather models. And it's assimilated directly into them. We have other data that gets assimilated into them, but this certainly doesn't help in the quality of our weather model output with this storm system. So we've been seeing kind of wild shifts in precipitation totals here and there as models struggle to kind of pinpoint, well, it looks like the low is moving this direction, and then the next run, it's like, actually, it's going to be 100 kilometers this way, which completely shifts the rainfall totals. But overall, this pattern is very supportive of very wet conditions. And this is our 10-day precipitation totals based on the Canadian. very wet across much of the Canadian prairies, like this kind of central and southern portions of all prairie provinces, adjacent areas of northwestern Ontario, northern U.S. plains, Montana, BC, very wet pattern. And this could actually play a role in how the rest of the summer pans out. We've got a lot of wet, cool soils out there, which could actually influence the shape of the jet stream through the summer and really kind of trigger a feedback loop, which continues to support maybe some cooler, more unsettled weather at times. But there's the possibility that we could see a pattern change also, maybe driven remotely by the developing El Nino in the Pacific Ocean that could bring us, a little bit warmer and drier weather. And we do see hints of that here in the European ensemble. I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm certainly not buying into it just yet. It's still quite a ways out there. And again, these patterns can kind of beget themselves. Drought tends to beget more drought, and cool weather, unsettled weather, especially in the summertime, we could see this persist for a while. And you can see right now, of course, this is showing height anomaly at 500 millibars. That's basically just the thickness of the atmosphere relative to normal. And we can see, a thinner atmosphere here associated with cooler temperatures in the western U.S., southern Canadian prairies, parts of BC, and higher heights here where it's warmer to the north. We've kind of, like I say, we're boxed in here. We've got ridging to the west, the north, and the east. So it's kind of blocking the movement of this upper low, and it keeps us unsettled and very wet with this pattern. Overall, across the northern hemisphere right now, the jet stream is very weak and wavy, and we've got blocking patterns elsewhere causing significant weather. Western Europe, and a significant omega block pattern over there has been associated with like an unprecedented heat wave, all-time record temperatures being set in portions of Western Europe, just baking crops on the fields there. So we're having problems in other parts of the world associated with this really kind of wavy jet stream pattern that's getting stuck in these blocking patterns. So we've got a Rex block here in North America. We've been dealing with that omega block in Western Europe. But as we get into the second week of July, we're starting to see hints that ridging in eastern North America could retrograde west and sort of set up over the eastern prairies. That would bring warmer, sunnier, drier conditions to portions of the eastern prairies, but it would also cause things to get quite soupy, quite humid, abnormally humid, given all the rain surrounding the region here. We start to get that vigorous plant growth, crop growth, and whatnot. It gives off water vapor to the atmosphere through evapotranspiration. We could get very humid, and that could be fuel for thunderstorms. That's another consideration in the coming weeks as we move into peak thunderstorm season in the Canadian prairies. There's not a shortage of moisture this year. That serves as fuel for these storms. We could see a fairly active summer, especially if we see ridging developing in the eastern prairies and that sort of jet stream, that southwesterly jet with troughing off BC and that southwesterly jet over the western prairies. That could be a fairly active pattern for severe weather. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for that. Lots of moisture out there as a result of the recent precipitation. So we'll see if this actually pans out or if the current pattern sort of persists in the coming weeks. Again, temperatures continue to be cooler than normal across the western U.S. and portions of southwestern prairies and BC. But in the models here, we're seeing that warmth that's in eastern Canada moving west into the prairies the second week of July. Check back soon. We'll see if that actually happens. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe to this channel, and thanks so much for joining me. We'll talk to you next time.